Cool. Hi, Dusty. From Louisiana. I've never been to Louisiana. I'm in Minnesota. It's 40 degrees today, so I'm holding hot tea and trying to warm up. Yeah, Roseville. That's super close to St. Paul. That's cool. And we'll definitely get to that question of what other testing areas or subjects is Northstar looking to add in the future. Hi, Karen. I'm never sure. My aunt is named Karen, but it's with a K, but everyone pronounces it Karen when they read it. So hopefully one of those is correct. Okay, yeah, probably not 40 degrees in Louisiana, but I can imagine good food. Okay, yep, I'm sure. I know my aunt's she has, I think, like 2 dots over the A in her name, which I think helps people say Karen. So we'll get started in about 5 minutes. So welcome to the webinar. We'll get started in about 3 minutes. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat box. Go ahead and just write your name, where you're at, and a question that you have about Northstar. Okay. So the old tests, we are phasing out. Let me see. We put, we had the legacy versions on the site for a while, and I'm trying to remember, I think that we saved them just for testing locations, so let me see if they show up here. Okay. So we do have the older versions of the tests still available on our website. but not available to the public, just for testing locations, because we're not necessarily supporting them anymore. And I'll go over this again too once we officially start, but just to answer your question now. When you are a testing location, you can put in your code, and then you can scroll down here and you'll be able to see the legacy modules. So for Microsoft Excel and Microsoft PowerPoint, because those aren't different versions than the one we're using now, we're keeping those available until June 18th, 2019. For the older software versions, we're keeping them available indefinitely. If we decide to scrap them, we'll give everyone 6 months notice, which will hopefully be enough time to work on, a plan for those. But we know that different sites have, different software and computers, and so we wanted to try to keep those available to address those different needs. And it's 10 o'clock. We can officially get started. So hi everyone, I am Jenna Rose Dahl. I'm the Digital Literacy and Distance Learning Instructor for the Minnesota Literacy Council. And I've been at the Literacy Council for 7 years as staff, and 1 year as a volunteer, and 1 as AmeriCorps. And through my work at the Literacy Council, I've been doing work on Northstar. So I started out coordinating a computer lab in the Ramsey County Workforce Center in St. Paul. And there I was working with unemployed adults who needed to learn basic computer skills in order to apply for jobs. And in that time, the first year or so, I was teaching computer skills. I had tutors. I was using LearnerWeb and different online resources and hands-on practice to teach people computer skills. But when Northstar came along, it really revolutionized how I was able to teach my students. So I would do a pre-test with them when they first came in, and then I was able to see this is what they know, this is what they need to work on, and I was able to teach them much more effectively and then also award certificates. So I was really excited about Northstar, and through my work with Northstar, I was then able to start answering the Northstar help desk. And now I do a lot of work on Northstar, stuff like writing assessments, editing things like our manual, doing photo shoots to put in our assessments, traveling and doing training. So I just got back this last week. I was in Washington, D.C., leading a training for OSSI at the University of DC. So it's really exciting how much Northstar has grown. So that's a little bit about me. I'm from Duluth, Minnesota. I live in St. Paul now. And Northstar is a very small team of people. So I work on 12 hours a week. The other hours of my work week are teaching blended learning adult ESL classes using Burlington English. So all of the Northstar staff are also working on other projects, but I would say we're a very small but mighty team. We get a lot of things done. So today what I'm going to do is go over the Northstar website with you, the Northstar admin portal, the practice for proctoring assessments, and just everything you need to know about version 2.0. If you have any questions as we go along, feel free to just put them right here in the chat box. All of your microphones are muted right now. So you can let me know if you need to be unmuted, and I will figure that out. But it usually works better to have everyone muted because then we don't get a lot of weird screechy sounds. So, is everyone seeing my screen okay? I want to make sure you're not just seeing my face. Can someone confirm that you're seeing the Northstar website on the screen here? Yes, okay, awesome. Thanks so much. One of the last webinars I did, I had hit screen sharing, but then I didn't realize that I was only sharing my face for a while, so whoops. Now I'm a little paranoid about it. So this is the new Northstar website. We've redesigned it with a new look, and right when you get to it, it's at digitalliteracyassessment.org. You can click on Take an Assessment or Become a Testing Location. So those are kind of the two people we see using the website, are people who want to take a test or people who want to join and become a testing location. When you click on Take an Assessment, it's going to scroll you right down here to the assessments. All of the assessments that have this updated word by them are the ones that we have updated with our new technology. So previously we were using a Flash-based technology, which was fairly limiting. So if you remember our old version, a lot of times there was only one way to answer a question. You had to scroll down one specific way. And now we've switched to HTML5, which is really awesome. We're able to do a lot more with the assessments. It looks a lot cleaner. And as web browsers have stopped using Flash Player, you no longer have to go through the hassle of enabling Flash Player. I know, so many good things. So I'm going to I'll open up one of our old assessments to kind of show you what would happen. You would have to click Enable Adobe Flash Player, and then you would have to click Allow, which is already a barrier for people who don't have technology skills, so that's not ideal. We want something that's really easy to use. After you click Allow, the assessment's going to start. I'm going to mute my audio so you don't get piano music here. And let me see. I'm going to move this guy over. Okay. You would click here. You get the orientation video. And the orientation video, no one could pause it. No one could go back and listen again. So there were some issues there. We've just taken a lot of feedback that people gave us to improve the assessment, which I'm excited about. And this is what the design of the assessment looked like. So there was an I don't know button, and it had our old logo and all of that stuff here. So let's see, I'm trying to hide this giant bar that's showing me all of these webinar controls. It's blocking my screen. That's one of our old assessments. One of our updated assessments, it's going to have a very different look. The music is going to be more soothing. I asked them to make all the music Backstreet Boys and they would not. But we have a very, very soothing song I like it a lot more than that piano. When you click next here, the orientation in YouTube, so now people can pause the orientation, they can skip ahead, they can go back, they can put on closed captions right here. So that's super handy. And the orientation's a little bit longer too. It's about 4 minutes. When you start an assessment, it's going to show you the number of questions that you have. And then the really cool things, like right here, I'm going to show you in this upper right corner, there's this button that lets you replay the audio. This button is going to show you what each of the test questions are. And when you finish test questions, so if I click next, I'm just going to answer not correctly. It's saying you need 3 ways. Okay. Right here, when I click on this button, I can see with this gray mark that these questions are answered. It doesn't tell me whether they're correct or not, but it tells me that I have completed them. If I'm at a question like this and I'm not sure, I can click I don't know. I can always come back to it later, which we couldn't do in the old assessments. Now you can go back and re-answer a question. So for example, if I come up to this list, I can see number 4 has a white dot. I didn't answer it. So if I click on that question, I can go back and re-answer it and try again. So in the picture, click on the button in the browser window that refreshes the page. Okay, I know that now, I remember. Then and it's going to show it as answered, which I think is super exciting. I know In my experience working with folks taking these assessments, a lot of times people with low digital literacy skills will accidentally double click or accidentally click something, and they weren't able to go back and change their answers, which felt very punishing. So I'm really excited that we've made that update. I'm gonna check in on chat and stuff here. Where did it go? Not there, not there. Okay, nothing, good. So the other things I really like about these new assessments are the closed captioning here. That works really well. The main thing that I get really excited about, other than answering questions this way, is that it'll show right in the upper right corner whether you're taking a public version or a proctored version. So previously on the assessments, if you set someone up for an assessment and they took it, you couldn't tell if it was being proctored or not just by looking over their shoulder. Now when you're proctoring an assessment, you can peek over your student or your user's shoulder and see whether you set it up correctly. I know before we've had people who had maybe missed a step in setting up the proctored assessment, and then their student took it and then it wasn't proctored, and even though they were there observing and they followed the code of conduct, like it wasn't going to give them a certificate. So this will show you right away whether it's proctored or not. Okay, and then just general things like a new design, our new, logo and colors and icons and font, and I just think it looks really pretty. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to leave the assessment. So all of these assessments that have this updated button are the ones that have gone through that update. At the beginning of this process, we revised all of the standards because, as you know, technology is ever changing, so we needed to make some revisions to just bring those standards current. And the standards are on the website. So even if an assessment isn't marked as updated yet, the standards are ready if you need to do, lesson prep or anything like that. And we're in the process of updating each module. So the process we go through on our end involves us creating the standards or revising the standards in most of these cases, getting review on the standards, and then we build a storyboard. So we create essentially a PowerPoint, and we write questions that align with the standards. We include images, we get feedback and review on that. And then when that's all settled, that goes into development and programming, it gets coded. And then when that's done, we do feedback and review on that. We send it out to testing locations to get more review. And we make adjustments based on feedback. And then when all of that is done, we will put it on our website. So Career Search Skills is a new one. Another thing that's exciting about these new assessments is we've been taking photos, holding photo shoots of actual students or CTEP members, volunteers who are underpaid, so we can give them some cash to be models in our Northstar assessments, which is really great because we're getting actual people in our assessments so they're not just stock photos, which I think really helps like the narrative flow of the assessments. Okay. Someone had a question earlier about the old assessments. So the older versions like Windows 7, for example, and we are keeping those older versions available for testing locations. So if you're a testing location, you'll have a PIN, and we'll go over this more later. When you put in your PIN and click go, it's going to prompt you to put in the name of the person taking the test. And once you put that in, if you scroll down, you can see the legacy modules. So these are the assessments that have those older versions that we're not supporting anymore, but we know that a lot of people have older software in their labs and stuff. We do at some literacy council labs for sure have some computers that have been passed from staff member to staff member and have finally landed in a school, and it can be helpful to have access to those older versions. So those are available not for the public, but just for testing locations right here. And for these older assessments, we're keeping them available until June 18th because the versions are the same. For these assessments, we are keeping them up indefinitely. But when we do take them down, or when we do decide not to support them any longer, we'll give testing locations 6 months advance notice. So it won't come as a surprise. You're not going to wake up someday and they're just going to be gone. We'll try to give you a lot of notice for that. All right. So a couple of other things on our website, again, digitalliteracyassessment.org. The other things I find super helpful and I find myself using a lot are if you click on assessment info and standards, we'll have the standards for each assessment. And right here, you can download a copy of the recently updated standards. So this is in a PDF. It's something you can print out really easily. It just has all of the standards for each assessment. So you can look at these standards. You can decide which ones you want to include in your lesson plans. You can check off ones that you've already been teaching. All of that. Okay. There's some info about the curricula that align with Northstar. The locations section here shows all of our different testing locations on a map. So Northstar started out as a St. Paul program, developed with a lot of different community partners, and now it's really exploded and grown. So now we have Northstar testing locations in all states, as well as in Canada and Africa and New Zealand and the UK. So that's really exciting to see how we've been growing. There's one in New Guinea, there's some in the Philippines. That's pretty cool. So we're now at, I think, over 700 testing locations and over 3 million assessments taken, which, to give you some perspective on that, when we look at our About section, we have a timeline that shows when all of these historical Northstar things happened. And I think it's in 2016, we had 300 sponsor sites. So 3 years ago, we had 300. Now we're at over 700. Yeah, and 3 million assessments taken. So we've really, really grown. There's an FAQ section here on the website also. So there's some general questions, and then there's questions that specifically testing locations answer a lot. So if you have a question, if there's something you're confused about, I would encourage you first to check the FAQ or our manual or our YouTube videos, because we've created a lot of resources for those answers. If there's something like a bug, definitely write to us. But as we are a small team, we really appreciate it when people check those resources we've created first, because that helps us dedicate time to things like writing new assessments and doing things like webinars. And I see someone said something. Is it possible to list multiple locations for a sponsor? Yes. So for someone who is a testing location, there's a couple of different things you can do if you have multiple locations. If you have multiple testing locations that you want to be under the same umbrella, you can have a network account. And that network account can let you run reports on all of the different agencies under your umbrella. So for example, we have one for the Minnesota Literacy Council that has our 6 open door learning centers under it. So that network account can run reports and get data about all 6 of those accounts. For like an agency that has multiple addresses, I don't think so. I think that we would just call that a different agency or have something to differentiate it as a different location, if that makes sense. Let me know if that wasn't clear. Or if you have a follow-up question. So those are the basic things on the Northstar website that I would look for. The other thing that I really want to show you here is the Northstar admin portal. So what I really love about our version 2.0 is that there's only 2 websites for you to remember. So previously we had the public website, a site-specific URL, the authorization page that you went to put in your PIN, and we had the admin portal. So there were 4. I always got really confused by that when I was a teacher. So I'm really excited that we've changed that now so that there's only 2. There's the public site and there's the admin portal. To get to the admin portal, the URL is just admin.digitalliteracyassessment.org. And I'll just put that right in the chat box so everyone's got it there. Whoop, not there, there. When you get to the admin portal, your email address is going to be your username, and your password is one you create yourself. So previously there was one username and password for every account, and the passwords were always like golden panda 3582 or pink giraffe 7680 something. So now you get to create your own password, which is really, really helpful. And each proctor and each admin will have an account. So yeah, so if you aren't a proctor but you are a teacher, would you still use the admin site? Oh, yeah, so you definitely can, depending on how you guys set up your account. So you could be an admin, like someone who oversees the proctors, and you would have access to everything on the site. If you're a proctor, you have access to everything on the site except for the part about managing proctors and other staff. So yeah, but even if you're a teacher, I would take the proctor training and get familiar with it. It's only 20 minutes. So yeah, we do not have an answer key, and that is on purpose because we want to keep the assessments secure, and because we will revise questions occasionally. But yeah, we have heard of people wanting like an answer key, but we don't want one out there. Yeah. If you have questions about how to answer a question on the assessment, if there's something you're confused about, you can definitely email us, and then I can answer that question for you. But we just don't want like a document out that's an answer key. So I'm going to log in here to the admin portal. I see a lot of different things that you won't see usually. So because I have a network here and because I'm assigned to multiple sites, I'm seeing all of those sites. Today I'm just going to show you the demo site so you're not seeing any actual student data. Yeah, the video for the proctor training, that's a good question. So when an admin adds you as a proctor, you will get automatically sent an email that links you to the proctor training. We also have it in our help section if you want to re-go through it. But yeah, as soon as you are added as a proctor, you'll get that proctor training sent to you. If you were already a proctor before version 2.0, we would have sent you that proctor training back in the fall. And you can always check spam if you don't see an email from us. Sometimes it does get filtered. On the home page here of your admin portal, you're going to see a location pin and a proctor pin, and these are fairly different. So the location pin is what you can enter on the home page, and when you do that, when your student puts in their name, you'll be able to see their test results. So the location pin is something that you could print out and hang up in your computer lab. If you want people to take the tests not proctored. So basically they're not supervised, they can't get a certificate, but you still want a record of their test results, then you can give them that pin. Your proctor pin is a lot more like a password. It's like a personal identifying number. And when you are proctoring an assessment, you'll put in this pin, and this you shouldn't share with anyone because this is identifying you as the proctor giving the assessment. It's your password saying, I am here, I'm watching the person. So to proctor an assessment, it's much simpler than before. When I'm on the admin page, right on the home page, digitalliteracyassessment.org, I click on Take an Assessment, and then I scroll right down. I'll enter in those 2 pins, and then I can observe the test taker, and then I'm proctoring the assessment. So my location pin is here. I'll click Go, and it's saying, you're currently logged in as an admin. You should log out, because if you're gonna test a student, you don't want them to have access to your admin portal, because then they'd have access to other student data. So I'm gonna say, okay, got it, log me out. And now I'm a student. You can put in the name for the student in advance if you want to, or you can have them type their name in. Either way is okay. And you can click Continue. Once you have logged in there, you've got that student name, you can click Proctor Mode On, and that's where you'll enter your proctor pin. So proctor pin, let me remember what it is. You put that in right here, click Authorize, and now it's telling me proctor mode is on. So now when I click on an assessment, okay, that's weird. Now when I click on an assessment, it's going to show proctored in that upper right-hand corner. So before it had said public, now it's showing that it's proctored. It has the kind of the person and the check mark, and so this is really helpful if you are setting up a lot of students for proctored exams and you're walking around observing all of them and you just want to verify that the assessments are being proctored. You can look over their shoulder and tell that they're being proctored. Okay. So back on the admin portal here, you'll see those pins right away when you log in. Remember, the location pin you can share publicly, the proctor pin is private. On the demo site, in the assessments tab, you can look at your students' test results, or you can search by a specific result. Something's being funky, and I'm not sure if it's because of my, because I logged out. A lot of things are being hidden on my screen by the Zoom meeting controls. So I'm not seeing every pop-up exactly as it happens. So that's the explanation of the little lag. Can you do a run through of why you do a location pin instead of a proctor pin? Yeah. So for me personally, in my computer labs, I never just did the location pin because I was always there with my students, and I knew if they passed, I wanted to give them a certificate. So for me, that's not something I used in my context. Some people want to use that location pin because they don't care about offering certificates. It's not necessary for their students, or because they they want people to be able to take the assessments when they're not there. So kind of depends on the context of your class or lab when you would use that. But basically, you could give it to your students and say, I want you to take this test. And then you would be able to see their results. Again, for me, it just wasn't valuable in my context because I always wanted to give a certificate if possible, and I was always there with my students. I didn't want them to take it outside of class because my students would have a habit of, they wanted to go home and take the test 30 times, which, as you know, isn't learning. Being able to pass a test isn't the same thing as having those skills and knowing, you know, how to actually perform those skills. So I would discourage you from that. But yeah, that's that's why. View all results here. You're going to see all of the student test results. It's going to show you their name, when they took it, which assessment they took, whether or not it was proctored, passed, what their score is. And then if it was proctored, you'll see the proctor's name right here, the person who proctored it. And if it was passed, then you can generate the certificate. And you can just click on it right here. It's going to download as a PDF. And it'll look like this, and you'll sign the certificate when that's finished. So new design, new certificate. And a tip from me, my computer lab was never fancy enough to have a color printer. So in order to make the certificates feel more like a certificate, I would always buy cardstock, just like a thicker, like I think I did like a beige marble kind of cardstock most of the time, and print the certificates out on that, even though they look gorgeous in color. And definitely use color if you've got it, but for us, we couldn't afford a color printer. So I would use that cardstock instead. When you click on an assessment right here, you can get a lot more info about your students' assessments. So the exact number they got correct, who was proctored, whether or not they claimed a badge or a certificate was given to them. You can see their standards mastered and their standards that need improvement. And then as a proctor, you can also see exactly which questions they missed. So this isn't something you should share with your student because, again, we don't want to teach them just how to answer specific test questions. We want to focus on teaching them the skills. But if I click on one of these test questions, it's going to show me a screenshot of the exact question the student missed. So that can be really helpful when you're an instructor to see exactly what they're getting hung up on. And you can also delete an assessment. So if you, for example, if you were proctoring an assessment for yourself just to test it out, that's definitely what I did when I was getting started with Northstar, because I wanted to kind of do a run through myself first, but I wouldn't want my results to show up in my student test data because I would need that for reporting and things, and it wouldn't be accurate if I had my test results in there. So you could delete results like that too. And yes, a proctor or admin, they both have the ability to print certificates. So proctors can do a ton of different stuff. The only thing they can't do is they can't edit or add staff or edit the address for the location. Yeah. And what's the difference between invalidate and delete? So invalidate, you would use if someone cheated. So if someone was looking up their answers on their phone to take the assessment, and you wanted to say this assessment wasn't valid, they cheated, the code of conduct was violated, then you could invalidate it. And deleting you would just use if you just don't want those records shown. I think I had to invalidate maybe 2 tests in my 7 years. And it always felt kind of odd to me because there's a part of me that thinks if someone has the skills to Google the answers to these questions, they probably have decent digital literacy skills, but they still cheated, so we still couldn't count that as, you know, an appropriate assessment. So yeah, in the reports section, you can get a summary or detailed reports, and we now have these fancy pie charts and graphs that you can check out. You can, oh goodness, also in detailed reports, you can get more detailed reports about each assessment, and you can filter results a lot of different ways. You can choose to look at proctored or non-proctored. You can find a date range. In the summary report section, you've got those same options, and you can download these reports in Excel and get a lot of different data. There's some videos that we've created about reports, so you can get more training and info on how to run reports in those. I'll show you where those are at. Do you allow someone to retest if they have violated the code of conduct? Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't let them do it immediately. I would maybe say, come back tomorrow and we'll try again tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, I think if someone cheats, you don't want to ban them from getting a certificate forever, but maybe give them a little bit of time in between. When you are an admin, you'll see this section on location info. So this is the only part that's different between admins and proctors, is you can edit your location info. That includes your address and whether or not you're shown on the public map. The demo site isn't shown because it's not a real location. You can come into manage staff, and you can see the admins. You can have up to 3 admins, and I would encourage you to use all 3 spots, because that way if someone quits or is out on vacation, there's another person who can help out with the account if needed. When there's an admin that doesn't need to be there, you can deactivate them and add another person. And the same for proctors. In our old version, you had to email us to delete proctors, and now you can delete them yourselves, which I'm really excited about because I spent a lot of time deleting all of the proctors that our 700 sites didn't want. Also, when you want to add a new proctor, you just click this button that says Add New Proctor, and you get you enter in a first and last name, their email address. When you click Create Proctor, it'll automatically send them an email that links them to the training and to setting up their account. So that's all you need to do to create a proctor. And again, you can just deactivate someone if they're not an active proctor with your site. And how do you delete a practice assessment? Yeah, I would just click that delete button if you had included it in your test results and you don't want it to be there. Yeah. Under location info, you can now also add a billing contact. So if you have someone at your agency who is your accounting person and they pay the invoice, but they're not in charge of other Northstar stuff, you can add them here. So I know, like for me, when I got sent an invoice for Northstar, I would have gone, oh no, I'll send it to the accounting person. So this would just do that automatically. Send it to the person who has the company card. And the billing person won't have access to test results and things like that. They would just get an email with the invoice once a year. The help section. We have a ton of different really useful things in this help section. There's several different ways for you to get questions answered and to learn how to do things in Northstar. So the manual is one if you're more about reading things. The quick start guide is for people who like watching videos. So there's a lot of the same information, but in different formats. If I click on the manual, it's going to show the table of contents, and each of these are links that will bring us to each section. So for example, if I wanted to change the name of my student, if I accidentally misspelled it, I could click this and find out how to change my student's name on their result. There's the test taker and proctor code of conduct, which you can print and keep in your lab. There's some steps for administrators specifically. If I wanted to learn about generating a report, I could click here, like generating detailed reports, and it's going to take me through each step to get those reports generated. So a lot of different info in this manual. It's got screenshots, it's got things to read. For my learning style, I prefer something like a manual because I like to read things really quickly. The Quick Start Guide is really great. The Quick Start Guide has a lot of short videos that will go over common tasks. So usually they're about a minute long each. So things like the version 2.0 updates, what's the difference between a public and proctored assessment, all of the passwords and pins, how to set up a proctored assessment, how to claim a badge, all of these things about certificates, viewing missed questions, filtering and downloading data, and admin tasks. So those are all there. They're also available on our YouTube page. So if you find us on YouTube, you just search Northstar Digital Literacy Assessment, and we have all of the those short videos here. We also have a recorded webinar from October when we first put out version 2.0, and we'll probably add other, webinars or trainings or videos and things on this channel also. Yeah, the badges. Oh my gosh, those badges. So right now, we are looking at partnering with a different like badge generator. Yes. I think Mozilla is also going through some changes. And so our programmer and developer is looking into it, and he's coming up with a solution right now. So if you use badges, you'll know that we've been using Mozilla Badges Backpack, and they've been having a lot of issues with their badging system, which we can't fix, unfortunately. So I've personally been advocating for us to come up with our own system so we don't have to rely on something from the outside, because when things go wrong and we can't fix them, that leaves us kind of helpless. But yes, we're working on that solution. Yeah, gosh. Any advice on getting Louisiana to accept specialties? I'm not sure. But if you email us, I can send that to our manager, and I'll put our email right here. It's support@digitalliteracyassessment.org. So if you email that question to us, I can send that to our manager and see if he has any ideas for that. Yeah. So our manual and quick start guide, we looked at those. When you see something that's like a bug in the assessments, or if you have a question that you haven't found the answer to in one of those other sections, you can say, I still need help. And then you can create a support ticket. So this goes to our online ticketing system in Zendesk, and it gets seen by 5 different Northstar staff. So the Northstar manager, who's Tom, myself, our accounting person, Jesse, who's the developer, and Teresa is our new marketing specialist. So the email gets sent to all of us. So just kind of all day we get these tickets, and then they get assigned to whoever is best suited to answer that question. So I'll answer a lot of your questions that are, along the lines of, I'm confused about this, or this isn't quite working, or I need help with something like that. If it's a bug, if something's not acting as it should, that'll go to our programmer. Some bigger questions go to Tom, the manager. Yeah. So in the support ticket section, you can indicate whether it's a bug, or if you have a question, or if you have a feature request. And don't be shy about sending in feature requests. It's really great to hear from folks, what you'd like to see in the assessments. Keeping in mind, of course, that we are really a small nonprofit. And so if you request something, we won't necessarily be able to do it, next week. But it's good to know what folks want. We were able to use a lot of requests when we revised to version 2.0, so we had a lot of feedback from people, and we were able to integrate that and make a better version. So it's always nice to hear, what folks would like to see in the future. The other thing that's super useful in this help section is this resources. So here you can go through the Proctor training again if you'd like. You can look at those updated standards that are also available on our public website. You can open up the codes of conduct. These are things that you can print out and keep in your classroom. I always wanted to share the test taker and proctor code of conduct with students, so they know what their responsibilities and rights are. That the rule is they have to put their notes away, they have to listen to instructions, they have to be respectful, and that we have to provide them a good environment and a clean and quiet environment and be able to support them. It's good for test takers to know those things. Back in the admin portal, there's also really handy things that you can print out. So we have a variety of posters and flyers, and these include photos of actual students in St. Paul who work with Northstar. I worked with the designer to get these into PowerPoint, so they would be really easy to edit, because not everyone has, like Adobe Photoshop or something to be able to edit. But because they're in PowerPoint, there's a section down at the bottom of each of these where you can put in your address or your contact info. So if you want to print out flyers to advertise Northstar at your site and put them in libraries and community centers, you can add your school's contact info or address or the times that you're offering the assessments, whatever you want, down in this bottom section to kind of personalize it to you and your location. And yeah, there's a variety. There's some different, kind of slogans and different photos here too. So there's posters like that. The flyers are similar, but they have more information on them. So smaller pictures and more info. They actually are listing the assessments and giving more of an explanation on what they are. And these also, you can click down here and edit them to add your contact info. So you can use those to advertise the assessments. There's also a sample press release. So if you're new to using Northstar and you want to send a press release to the newspaper, this is a template that you can edit. And I also made these basic screeners. So these are things that you can give to your students if you're not sure that they're ready to take a computer skills assessment. So I worked with a lot of people who were brand new to computers, and some of them were okay taking an assessment. Some of them were so brand new that they didn't know how to hold the mouse. They, had just really never touched one or seen one before. So for those students, it was helpful to give them a screener with some basic questions like circle the laptop or match the names to the correct picture. So these are some questions that are similar to the questions we have in our assessments. Which of these can be used to store data? And then some other questions like how often do you use a computer, and what do you wish you could do on a computer but can't? So this is a tool for you to get to know your students' digital literacy skills a little bit before you put them into an assessment. You don't have to use these. You can always just put them in the basic computer skills assessment, but they're here if you need them. There's that screener. The interactive one is one that you could use if you were working one-on-one with someone. So this one is more oral. You can say, is this a desktop or laptop computer? And have them answer. Or please point to the mouse. Please point to the keyboard. So if you have someone, who's more comfortable being tested in, in an oral way, or, one-on-one. You can do that kind of interactive assessment also. So those are all right there under resources. All proctors and admins will have access to all of those tools. The report section, the assessments, only admins will have access to that location info, so the ability to add and edit staff. A couple of new and coming things that we're working on right now, which are going to be really awesome. One of them is curriculum that will align with Northstar. So we've always been assessments, and we're now working on writing curriculum that will align with each of our assessments. So this will be curriculum that teachers can use in their classrooms for instruction. And we have hired 2 people to work on the curriculum. So we have an instructional designer from the U, and we have a CTEP member from Hub Center. And there's also a Literacy Council curriculum person who's kind of overseeing and working with those 2 on writing the curriculum. I'm really excited about it. I think it's a long time coming that we have curriculum that aligns with our assessments. And it's a process to write it all. So I believe that by July, we'll be able to release probably 3 of the curriculum units. So we'll probably have one out on basic computer skills, internet skills, and email. I think will probably be the first 3 that we put out. And that'll be really awesome. And then we're just going to continue to work on the other ones. Yeah, I know, curriculum. I'm super pumped. And then I see that question. I haven't had a chance to dig through the 2 websites you mentioned yet, but I'm curious if you have a glossary. I don't think we have a glossary, but that is a great idea. And I've been working with the Northstar team on our terminology. So in version 2.0, we switched a lot of language. We used to call you guys sponsor sites, and now we're calling you testing locations. This is now an admin portal instead of an admin page. And right now I'm in talks because we're calling the assessments modules, and I just want to call them assessments because modules means parts, and it could also refer to things like curriculum. So we're working on clarifying a lot of the terms and vocabulary that we use, and a glossary is a great idea. So yeah, I'm super excited about curriculum development too. The second piece that's really exciting that's coming next is the LMS, so the Learner Management System. In the future, you will have the option to create accounts for your students or test takers. And so you'll make an account, like their username, again, will be their email. You can set a password for them. So as an admin or proctor, you'll have more power over that system. And your students will be able to sign in, and initially they will be able to see their test results. So they will be able to log in and see each of the tests that they've taken and their results pages. They can't print certificates because you as the proctor still need to sign them, but they can see whether or not they've passed. They can see what they got wrong. I think we're also going to do some work with badging, so their badges will hopefully show in that section also. And then in the future, we will develop online learning to fit into that LMS. So probably not in the next 6 months, but that's going to be a next big project for us. So students will be able to log in, they'll see their results page, and if it says that they need to work on improving their mouse skills, they'll be able to click on that, and it's going to open up a video or an article or an activity to practice clicking. So they'll be able to get online learning that aligns with what they need to learn, which I think is going to be revolutionary and awesome. And it's exactly what I wanted when I was teaching computer skills before using Northstar. So I'm really excited about that. And hopefully, I've asked for them also to build it with a time on task kind of model. So we'll be able to see how long students are in that learner management system and how long they've been studying, and be able to get that approved for proxy hours, which will be awesome too, because that always means more funding. And yeah, so the curriculum and the LMS are the two big things coming up next. So we've got about 5 minutes left, and I'll leave this time for if you guys have any questions at all. If you have questions that come up after this, definitely feel free to check out the manual and those short videos, and or email us at support@digitalliteracyassessment.org. But I'll stop talking now. So if you guys have questions. If not, then it was great seeing you. Have a great day. Hopefully you are staying warm. Yeah, I did record the webinar, and I can share it with our staff so that we can get it on our YouTube channel. Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming. Thanks for being Northstar people and using Northstar. Aw, so nice to be thanked. Oh, you sound like my daughter and look like a young version of me. That's funny. Maybe we're related. Thanks so much. Good to see you guys. Oh, thanks. Oh, yeah. You know, I've never sent out a survey before for these webinars. Don't know why not. I guess we try to keep our the emails we send out to people pretty minimal. But that's something I could bring up. We'll be adding a partner presence onto careerforcemn.com. That's a good question. Yes. So the new modules that we're developing are in alliance with CareerForce. So there's one on career search skills, and the one I just wrote is called Digital Footprint. So those two, they specifically commissioned us to do, and so we'll be kind of integrating with them. Yeah. And I don't know tons about that part. Tom knows a lot more about that part than I do, but yes. Yeah, I'll stick around until 11 if anyone has any questions. I see our numbers have gone from like 50 to 9, so I'm guessing a lot of people don't have questions, which is great. But if you do, definitely let me know. Thanks so much, Jeannie. All right. It's about 11, so I'm going to close up. Thanks so much, everyone, for coming. You can email us at support@digitalliteracy assessment if you have other questions. Thanks for using Northstar. Have a great day.